Welcome back, dear viewers. You're still watching Nile Cruise on Nile TV, dear viewers. And today we're celebrating, of course, the 23rd of July Revolution, which is a turning point, of course, in Egyptian history, and a very special day that we're celebrating from a very special place, which is Gamal Abdel Nasser Museum. Dear viewers, events throughout the history have proved that the Egyptian people have gone far beyond the calamities that they have endured. They're looking for the path of salvation, and after the flood of hope, it has no way but revolution and change the status quo. Revolution passed through many stages, and today, dear viewers, we are honored to host the historian, of course, General of Rangers and Commandos, Dr. Ahmed Salihah, on the most important revolution stages and the role of the great leader Gamal Abdel Nasser, of course. A very good day, sir. It's a pleasure to have you in today's episode of Nile Cruise, sir.
My pleasure and honor. Thank you so much. I didn't dream I was a lieutenant in the army of Nasser, of socialism in Africa, Asia, the Arab world, the Islamic world, and I didn't believe that someday I'm going in his house, I'm going to talk about him. This is the esteemed honor I will get all over my life and past.
General, Professor Salihah, you just answered my first question before I even posed it, and that is, how do you feel indeed in the place now where the late president used to live with his family, where he sometimes had meetings with the top officials in the country and planned the future of Egypt, which naturally affected the Arab world, the region, Africa, and at times the entire world. So how do you feel being here in that place, in this place?
It started that it was a very modest house, and even his bed was taken from the army. He's still sleeping on the same bed. He used to meet all the officials, and it's attached to his bureau. And the same bed where he was a major, he used to stay, to keep it with him. But let me go back to something which is very important. The charismatic place came from his charisma. He was leading, when he was in high school, a demonstration against the British occupation. He was arrested because he led those demonstrations day and night, and the police commissioner of Al-Manshiyah wanted to slap him on his face, and he looked at his eyes and couldn't. He is the leader, and he has to curb or let him refrain from demonstrations and leading the demonstrators. So he called his father and told him to slap his son. He couldn't. And even the police commissioner let him go free because of the charisma of his eyes. He came to our battalion. We had a great operation over the Jews. We crossed the Nile and we killed 43.
The Israelis, yes.
Yes. And we were lining in one row, and he started to shake hands of everyone. No one could introduce himself or speak because of his charismatic, Rasputinic, psychological, psychiatric look, like a hawk, a condor, a falcon, black eyes. No one could speak a word, and he didn't say a word. Just look at their eyes of those officers who hit the Israelis. we had 2 prisoners at that operation. The point is, he was conveying a message through his eyes.
Dr. Ahmed, historically, how did Egyptians prove not to surrender through their revolutions?
It was a deep, profound sensation among all the people of Egypt that the king is corrupted and he has to go. And it was called in Europe the White Revolution. The Revolution of France killed 2 million noble, and by the guillotine they cut their heads. 2 million, and still considered the best revolution, and inspired, inflamed the whole world. We ended the era of kings, and we started in Africa, in Asia, and later even the people sided, they stood with the revolution, and stood even with the policies of positive neutralism, of gathering the Arabs, United States of America. We could be richer, of course, because of the oil. The United Arab States could be stronger. That was his dream. And people stood up for it and believed in it.
Yes, and Egypt during the era of Nasser was called الجمهورية العربية المتحدة, right? The United Arab Republic of Egypt, of course. So that Nasser, when he came with a view of not only liberating Egypt from occupation or corruption or kings who are related to the occupation, but to freeing the Arab world. Palestine was in his mind, and to also lead movements in Africa for freedom, right? And to lead movements for freedom in Africa as well, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
He gave the example, the fair example of giving all his life, and his 2 sons they were officers in the army, and his brother General Tariq Abdel Nasser was a commando of. We were together in the commandos. He was with martyr Ibrahim Rifa'i, and he witnessed the death of his martyrdom, and that's Egypt. The brother of Sadat was the first wave to attack the airports of Sinai, and the brother of Nasser, General Tariq Abdel Nasser, and he is he's keeping low profile. He doesn't like to talk about himself or anything. He is a war hero, and never to show in media or anything. That's the charisma.
One of the
Nasser.
legacies, yes, one of the legacies of.
Dr. Ahmed, if you come to mention historically President Gamal Abdel Nasser, you were just mentioning, of course, the great president, ex-president, of course, the great president Sadat. The difference between both very important presidents that made turning points in Egyptian history, actually, what do you see difference between them, both?
Oh my God, the difference between socialism and capitalism, of course. But Sadat was having the wisdom and the cunning of the Delta. He was very
he had political wit, right?
Yes,
politically,
political
he was
wit.
very witty.
And the greatest thing he did, because he was against Nasser, current and socialism and that stuff. But the point is, he went to Israel it was a great approach. That's why the whole world liked him.
Of course, that was after winning the October
Of course.
war.
Of course,
73,
he was.
yes.
We were the strongest. So when he goes to the foe, the enemy's house, it was a great thinking. That's why he's beloved around the world. But there is no comparison between. This is another approach, and but Nasser laid. He was siding with the poor, with the middle class, and he built all the factories. He kicked out the British. He built the high dam. By the way, I was studying in Europe. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, but and I think you would agree that there is no question also that the war of attrition that Nasser led had a big role in the 73
preparing
victory.
the army. It was the army of
Rebuilding.
Nasser who
Rebuilding.
launched the war and won the war. And even in the 3 years of
From
the
67
truce,
to 70.
the Egyptian capabilities went down, but it was at the utmost readiness during Nasser. Just
you were going
a
to
little
mention
notice
something.
remark
Yes.
about the high dam.
Yeah.
They were collecting money for the African drought and desertation. There were no water in the 80s, and all the African countries they were suffering from the water, and there were no crops or anything. And in my study, they were collecting money, and they were giving a lot of money to me as a poor country. I said, no, we have the high dam. Everything is all right. We don't have drought and desertation in the 80s. They were collecting money for the poor countries. We didn't see that because of the high dam. And the story of the high dam, of course, to nationalize the canal and stand against the big countries, France. France had a special case because we were helping, hosting Ben Bella, Boumediene, everyone here.
The freedom movement
yes,
against the French
Transitional
occupation
Council
of Algeria, of course.
Yes, the Transitional Council of the Algerians. We were hosting them here.
Yeah.
And we were giving big shipments and training them. We installed, my teachers, my veterans, they installed the Commando Ranger School in Algeria. And they are invited now in the revolution ceremonies. They always, every year, they are invited. We kicked out the French 10 years from 54 to 63. They were freed. 10 years. Egypt was training, financing, everything, hosting, embracing. We freed Algeria. History shows. We were hiding this, but the French attacked us in 56 because our role. That's the role of Nasser.
Sir, as you, of course, witnessed all this period and witnessed what happened, how do you feel?
Feel about the history.
Yes.
I didn't think that someday I'm gonna speak here in his house. That's my feeling. I have 5 sisters. They were crying out of joy, and they had their tears when they knew that I'm going, because my father
Today?
fought with Nasser in Bayrun Isha. He was besieging a village called Bayrun Isha. My father fought in the first war, 48. And they are witnessing his son to speak about Nasser.
Yeah.
So it's a historical event in our family.
Your sisters,
Five.
the joyful. So the tears were joyful tears because you're coming today here
Yes.
to Gamal Abdel
Yes.
Nasser's
It's
museum.
history. They said God is compensating your father who was injured in the war, and during the king there were no any he was out of the army because he was injured.
General Professor Salihah, I want to ask you about 2 days. 2 days. The day when Nasser said that he would step down in 1967, and the day when Nasser died. Talk to us about those 2 days and your memories of those 2 days.
Very tough, difficult.
Yeah, I know. That's why I asked. That's why I asked
Because
about them. Yeah.
people said the National Union prepared cars to carry people to make a demonstration. They prepared 100 lorry, camion, 500, and each is 50, 550, that's 2050. There were 5 million. There were an accident in it was covered because of the sadness. Hundreds of coming from Alexandria, and they were all the trains. They were covering all the trains, and they were walking on the railway, and then an express came and it killed a lot. They were killed because they came from all over the country to go to that place here, and for
Finally, because we're out of
three
time.
nights, people were staying in the streets.
They couldn't believe that they would be without Nasser.
Yes.
But finally, because we're running out of time, the day when he died, and that funeral, of course, the historic funeral.
It was said globally around the world, it's the biggest
Funeral?
funerary in the whole world. The biggest.
The biggest and most sincere as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
sincere. Gandhi and Nasser. Gandhi and Nasser. It's the biggest two. And it was attended by the Americans, the Russians, everywhere.
General Professor Ahmed Salihah, thank you very much for being with us here on Nile Cruise, Nile TV International on that very special occasion, the 67th anniversary of the 23rd of July 1952 revolution. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sir,
you.
for joining us.
It's
It was a
honor.
great
Thank
pleasure and honor, of course, to have you today in our episode of Nile Cruise. Dear viewers, stay with us. We're celebrating a very special day today, the 23rd of July Revolution, which is a turning point in Egyptian history. Stay with us and don't go away.